A week had passed since Omegamonka's brutal descent into Ragefire Chasm. Stronger now, and a bit less penniless, she had developed a surprising new ritual, a daily visit to the local tavern. Not for indulgence, but for something simpler, familiar, comforting. She pushed open the creaky door, the scent of roasted boar and warm heart filling the air. The barkeeper barely looked up. He already knew. "I'll have the usual. One moonberry juice coming right up." "What? You thought a monk would be drinking ale?" "Please. Discipline first." Morak slid the glass across the counter with a practiced hand. "So, what's the plan for this week, champ? Another death-defying descent into madness?" Omegamonka smiled faintly, eyes focused on the swirling juice. The adventures weren't over, they had only just begun. Since her return from Ragefire Chasm, she had fallen back into her old training routines. Every movement sharp, every breath measured, but her mind remained elsewhere. She couldn't forget the orc's dying words. Why her? Of all the souls in Azeroth, why had the curse plate responded to her touch? What connection did it have to this mysterious Archmage? And more importantly, was he an ally? Or a threat waiting in the shadows? She had no answers, no leads, just questions that gnawed at her during every kata, every meditation, every sleepless night. Lost in thought, she barely noticed the tavern door creak open. Two figures stepped inside, cloaked, weary, and travel-worn. Their faces were drawn, eyes scanning the room with silent urgency. Mud clung to their boots, and soot streaked their cloaks. They looked like they had come a long way, not for a drink. Omegamonka glanced towards them without turning her head, her instinct staring. Something was about to change. "You two look like you've been through a war zone." "We pretty much have, my brother Sauron and I. Let's just say we weren't exactly prepared for the adventure we signed up for." Morak slid 2 mugs of cold spring water across the bar. "Here, on the house. You've clearly earned it. Not that it's any of my business. But what sort of clientele is my bar attracting these days?" Thorin responded, quickly and defensively. "Hey, we didn't cause trouble. We came from the Barrens. We heard there were caverns nearby, rumored to be full of life." Sauron grumbling into his drink. "Oh, they were full of life, alright. Just the kind that wants to rip your face off. So what made you even go looking for these caverns of life in the first place?" Thorin responded. "Word reached us about ancient springs hidden in those caves, said to hold restorative powers. We thought, maybe, just maybe, they could help bring fertility back to the Barrens, make the land thrive again. But the second we got close, it was like the whole place woke up angry. Creatures were very aggressive, twisted, primal things. The cavern's no paradise, it's a death trap." Barkeep Morang slammed a hand on the counter, nearly spilling the brothers' waters. "You fools! You didn't actually go into the Wailing Caverns, did you?" The room fell silent. Even the crackle of the heart seemed to pause. At that exact moment, a low hum began to rise from Omegamonka's satchel. She stiffened. Her eyes dropped slowly to the worn leather bag at her side. The blade she claimed in Ragefire Chasm, was vibrating. Not violently, but insistently, like it had just heard its name spoken in another language. She placed a steadying hand over it, and the vibration eased, but her pulse did not. Omegamonka wondered to herself, Wailing Caverns, what are they? She turned towards the group, her voice calm but edged with purpose. "What exactly did you see down there?" Thorin looked up, clearly shaken. Sauron narrowed his eyes. Barkeep Morang let out a heavy sigh and leaned on the counter, his voice lowering as if recalling a half-forgotten nightmare. "The rumors Thorin spoke of, they're not entirely false. Long ago, a druid named Naralex journeyed into the Wailing Caverns. He believed, truly believed, that he could use the energies of the Emerald Dream, combined with the cavern's spring waters to restore life and fertility to the Barrens. He paused, casting a glance towards the hearth fire, as though watching ghosts in the flames. Barkeep Moraine continued, but something went wrong. Terribly wrong. The dream turned into a nightmare. Instead of blooming into a paradise, the caverns twisted. The energy was corrupted. Creatures inside began to change. Twisted shapes, feral minds, violent instincts. Sauron shifted uncomfortably. Naralex and his disciples never returned. Some say they were driven mad. Others say they were claimed by the dream's corruption. Now they're known only as the Druids of the Fang, guardians of a place that should have never been touched. A tense silence followed. Omegamonka broke it. Where are these caverns? Southwest of the crossroads, there's an oasis hidden among the canyons. You'll know you found it when you see the entrance. It's shaped like a skull, carved from the rock itself. Moraine's eyes narrowed. You don't intend to go there, do you? But Omegamonka didn't answer. She simply stood, slung her satchel over her shoulder, and walked out into the dry afternoon heat of the Barrens. The wind carried dust and distant cries of kodos as she marched southwest, the horizon shimmering with heat and fate. Hours later, she found it, a towering, cracked formation rising from the Barrens, like the fossilized remains of some long-dead beast. The skull-shaped stone loomed overhead, and as she approached the shadow of its gaping maw, the blade began to vibrate once again, stronger this time. She was close. No doubt remained. The Wailing Caverns were calling, and Omegamonka was ready to listen. A few cautious steps into the caverns, and the silence was broken. From the shadows, a raptor launched, its claws slashing through the stale air, followed by a shrieking hatchling that trailed just behind. But they were small, disorganized, and desperate. Omegamonka met them head-on, her fist striking with practiced precision, one tiger palm, one spinning crane kick, and it was over. The creatures collapsed at her feet, twitching in the dim glow of bioluminescent moss. She didn't even break stride. Deeper in, the narrow tunnel began to widen, until it opened into a massive chamber. The Cavern of Mists. A heavy fog clung to the ground, swirling around her ankles like something alive. High above, jagged stone arched like the ribs of a buried titan, and all around her, steam fissures hissed violently, each burst accompanied by a sharp, high-pitched wail that sounded almost faint, like the earth itself was crying out. Omegamonka's blade pulsed once more, its vibration aligning with the breath of the cavern, like it too could sense she was drawing closer to something ancient and wrong. She pressed forward, into the mists, into the heart of the Wailing Caverns. The cavern's mists thickened as Omegamonka moved forward, until a figure emerged through the fog. A lone towering druid, cloaked in faded robes. His posture was calm, but his eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen too much. Muyo. His voice was quiet, almost reverent. You are not like the others who wander in here. I sense no madness in you. I am one of Naralex's disciples, one of the few who remained untouched by the corruption. These caverns, they were once a place of hope, now they are a poisoned dream. Omegamonka listened, her hand instinctively brushing the hilt of the vibrating blade in her satchel. If we are to save what remains, I must awaken Naralex from his slumber. But I cannot do it alone. The Fanglords, once my brothers, stand in my way, twisted, broken, dangerous. He looked her in the eyes. Will you help me? Something in the way he spoke, steady, sorrowful, sincere, resonated with her. There was no deceit, no hidden motive, just conviction and desperation. Omegamonka nodded. She accepted the task without a word, and ventured deeper into the Wailing Caverns. Raptors once more barred her path, their eyes wild and movements erratic. She struck swiftly. Tiger palm, paralysis, blackout kick, followed by a well-placed rising sun kick. Her body moved like a stream around stone. Controlled, reactive, efficient. But she remained cautious. Her most potent technique, Touch of Death, she reserved. It was too dangerous to rely on too freely. In this place, one mistake could mean the end. 5 lives, no more. She pulled enemies one by one, luring them away from patrol routes with silent footsteps and perfectly timed strikes. It was slow work, but it kept her safe. Then something odd happened. She stunned the Guardian with paralysis, stepped back, and unleashed crackling jade lightning. The arc of green energy struck the stunned enemy, but the paralysis held. Her brow furrowed. That wasn't how things usually worked. It felt like she had disrupted the rule of the world, an inconsistency, perhaps a flaw, or a gift. She looked at her hands, then back at the now smoking corpse of the creature. It was confusing, sure, but in this place of dreams and madness, perhaps the law of nature bent more easily. For now, she wouldn't question it, she'd use it. After dispatching her first corrupted druid, Omegamonka advanced deeper into the caverns. She felt a chill, not from the air, but from the presence ahead. Standing with flawless poise beneath a flickering torch was a night elf, her lavender skin nearly glowing in the shadows, her silver-white hair cascading like moonlight. But it was her hand that drew the eye. Green energy, twisting, vibrating, unnatural, swirled between her outstretched palms. A spell was forming, one that looked suspiciously like a healing incantation. For a moment she looked almost peaceful, a druid performing her sacred rites. But Omegamonka knew better. This was Lady Anacondra, one of the corrupted disciples of Naralex, and that spell wasn't meant to heal, it was meant to twist. With a sharp cry, Anacondra unleashed lightning bolt. It crackled towards Omegamonka like a serpent striking from the bush. But the monk had already slipped behind the pillar. The bolt splashed harmlessly against the rock. Omegamonka kept line of sighting her abilities. They either missed, or they were not casted at all. She darted out again, Tiger Palm, then Paralysis, shutting the druid down for a crucial second. But Anacondra fought with poise, recovering quickly, casting again with perfect druidic form. Every movement was elegant, but wrong, like a sacred ritual gone sour. Then mid-fight, a distraction. Her wristbands torn, hanging by a thread. She forgotten to repair them. One armor. One. This wasn't just a battle for survival anymore. It was a battle to not get embarrassed by her own negligence. She still adapted. She used terrain, reflexes, and resolve, outmaneuvering the Fanglord with disciplined focus. And when the opportunity came, she struck clean and true with a rising sun kick, the energy of the strike severing Anacondra's spell mid-cast. The druid fell in a coil of her own corrupted magic, the green glow flickering out like a dying star. Omegamonka stood over her, chest rising with quiet breath. A lord no more. And she pressed onwards into the cavern's depths. The next challenge slithered, or rather, lumbered into view with surprising calm. It was Crash. A giant turtle with moss-covered shell, glistening with moisture, rested beside a shallow pool at the cavern's edge. He did not snarl, he did not charge. In fact, he barely acknowledged Omegamonka's presence, his heavy-lidded eyes tracking her with the serene indifference of an elder beast, untouched by the madness that plagued the caverns. But something else caught her eyes. Around his thick neck hung a necklace, ornate, unusual, and possibly enchanted. Omegamonka narrowed her gaze. "Sorry, friend," she muttered. "That looks useful." She stepped forward, fists raised. Crash responded, not with a roar, but with a slow, deliberate turn, and then struck with surprising force. His jaw snapped forward with a thunderous crashing bite, the force of it sending a jolt through her frame. A strange, shuddering sensation followed, like her skin had become more vulnerable. A debuff. Omegamonka blinked, then laughed. "Oh no," she said with mock horror, dodging to the side. "My armor! Whatever will I do?" She clapped her hands together in mock applause. If I had any to begin with. Crash continued to bite, stacking the effect again and again. Each time, the visual cue pulsed brighter on her vision. She giggled through the assault, weaving out of his reach with practiced footwork, darting in to strike between bites. The debuff meant nothing. You can't weaken what's not there. She danced around the turtle with precise kiting, backpedaling just before each lunge, minimizing his chances to land a hit. It became a game of rhythm and timing, a strange duet between monk and turtle, and slowly, inevitably, Crash began to tire. Eventually, even the ancient beast succumbed. With a final groan, he collapsed, his massive body settling into the pool with a heavy splash. But the victory rang hollow. The necklace, her supposed prize, lay shattered beneath one of his claws, ruined in the heat of battle. Nothing magical, nothing useful, just a trinket, now broken and forgotten. Guess we both lost something, she muttered, stepping over the shell. The path ahead twisted upwards into the pit of fangs, the air growing denser with every step. Still catching her breath, she dispatched a serpent that lunged at her, only to find something odd clamped between its fangs. A pair of canvas bracers. Omegamonka held them up, inspecting the stitching. These could be a good replacement for the Benzitor fighting Anacondra, she said, sliding one over her wrist, only to frown. The fabric slipped loosely, hanging awkwardly like borrowed clothes. Too wide. They look like they've been made for someone bulkier. Great, she sighed. Bracers for a Tauren. She kept moving forward, and the path only grew darker ahead. The tunnel narrowed before widening again into a rough, circular clearing, scorched with blackened scorch marks and ringed with jagged stalagmites. Waiting in the corner, by a low burning campfire, was her next opponent, Lord Pythas. He wasn't like Lady Anacondra, no quiet elegance, no corrupted serenity. This one was pure fury. He lunged the moment he saw her, wielding two cruel axes that gleamed with venomous green runes etched deep into their blades. Every swing was wild, but deliberate, driven by rage and purpose. He struck as though his soul demanded it, like she was the only thing standing between him and some furious truth. Omegamonka moved with grace, deflecting, sidestepping, countering, until suddenly a jolt of lightning leapt from his hands. She took it full on. It sizzled harmlessly across her chest. She blinked. That's it? Another X-swipe, another lazy bolt. She parried, struck back with a tiger palm, and rolled beneath the next attack. I've had taverns so hotter than that, she muttered. The battle dragged, not because it was difficult, but because Pythas just refused to fall. The axes, the lightning, the sheer tenacity. It was a war of attrition. Blow after blow, she whittled him down, timing each movement with brutal precision. And finally, with a punishing touch of death that knocked the wind from his lungs, Pythas crumpled far away from his campfire. Omegamonka stood over him, panting slightly. Nothing, no weapon, no charm, not even a pouch of copper. She stared in disbelief. You've got 2 enchanted axes and a flair for theatrics, and you're broke? But then something caught her eye. Behind the fire, a chest. Her heart lifted. Maybe this was the real prize. She approached and opened it slowly, anticipation tightening her fingers. Inside, linen cloth, swift thistle, and other random stuff of no use. She stared down at the contents in stunned silence. Then, deadpan. This dungeon is testing me. She closed the chest with finality, stood, and rolled her shoulders. No time to sulk, no time to second guess. More of Naralex's disciples awaited, and Omegamonka wasn't here for the swift thistle. She could sense it, the presence of another Fanglord nearby, thicker in the air than the lingering poison spores. Omegamonka advanced cautiously, dispatching lurking serpents and twisted druids along the way. One particular serpent hissed, coiled defensively, and lunged, but fell swiftly. As its lifeless body uncurled, she spotted something beneath its tail. A cloak. She tucked it free, gave it a quick shake, and swung it around her shoulders. It fit perfectly. The fabric settled across her form like it was stitched just for her. Her silhouette seemed to sharpen, her presence grew heavier. The change didn't go unnoticed. Other druids of the Fang began to scatter at the sight of her. A few even ran, good for them. Hopefully none ran too far. One did. He bolted right into the line of sight of a nearby Fanglord. Omegamonka froze, fist tightening. Don't pull, don't pull. Will the druid of the Fang pull the boss? Will this be the first death of Omegamonka? Find out in the next episode of the Dorori challenge. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please leave it a like, comment, and consider subscribing. It will really encourage me to release the next episode. Thank you, and see you in the next one.